And welcome back to the Establish the Run podcast. I mean, the Baseball Development Hub podcast. My name is Trevor Powers, and I am joined by co-host Dan Galati today. Dan, how are we doing? It's our favorite time to record early in the morning. We still got the coffee flowing through our veins.
Sports suck is like the biggest takeaway that I have over the last 7 days. I wish there's so many turning points in your life. I'm starting to learn as I get a little bit older where like you can look back and you're like, oh, that was kind of a crossroad moment and I took this path instead of this path. I'm not getting that deep. Don't worry, people. I just want to know where, when I was like 5 years old, that like I veered towards my dad and his sports fandom instead of my mom and her. I don't care about anything that has anything related to sports. And like, if you could just take me back to 5-year-old me, and maybe instead of spending all my free time with sports and sports related things, I'd be enjoying going to the Shakespeare Theater like my mom and sister were doing at a young age. And how much more enjoyable would that be? Like, you don't go to a Shakespeare performance and ever get let down. There's no deflation when you go to a play, I feel like, right? Unless, maybe it could be not the best play, but still you probably enjoyed your time, went to dinner beforehand, had a nice evening out, spend your Saturday. It's nice weather. You do something else instead. Like, it was just like, sports has dominated my life for my entire life. And it like never really goes the way you want it to ever. And then like the worst part is it goes the way you want it to maybe a couple times. I'm fortunate. I've seen some championships with my favorite team, but then that just sets expectations that will never be matched again. And so it's like the letdown after getting to that point always stinks.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's where I'm at this morning.
I was actually thinking about that yesterday, ironically. And for those that don't know, we are recording on Sunday. We've talked about our Penn State fandom as a group, I guess, now since you declared yourself a Penn State fan, coming off a loss to UCLA. And I thought about that sports fandom conversation. And obviously you have the Phillies in the postseason as well. Georgia lost to Alabama last weekend too. So we both kind of feel the same way on this day. And it was like, man, the things I would do to just have like a normal Saturday where I didn't feel like a bunch of 19 to 22-year-old kids were going to let me down, or social media was going to blow up with hatred and animosity towards people that I support, right? That's the crazy thing we were talking off air about sports fandom, and the conversation around it is, when did sports fandom become you have to hate your team? Don't know. And you have to hate every part of it. Like, is that really that enjoyable? And everybody's favorite player is the backup quarterback, and everybody's favorite coach is the last
next
head coach or the next
or the next
coach. Everything that goes into sports fandom is tough, right? And you're right about the fact. Yesterday I was sitting outside before 12 o'clock, as I typically do on college football Saturdays. I enjoy sitting on the couch and just enjoying football and relaxing and soaking it up. And I was sitting outside, and it's a perfect 76-degree day in North Carolina, no humidity. And I talk about this all the time. I fell in love with the state of North Carolina when I worked at UPS, and it was Groundhog's Day, and it was exactly the way it is. And I was like, man, I was, thinking about, what should I do? I should go out. Like, I kind of just want to take the car for a spin with the windows down and good music playing. I'm like, no, I got football to watch. Man, do I wish I was a normal human being who actually just took the opportunity to go eat lunch outside on a patio somewhere and actually soak in the opportunity to have a sunny, beautiful North Carolina day and not sit on my couch and watch football and then have to cram in dinner plans at 7:30 at night after watching whatever the debacle was that was my favorite team playing.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so bad, is like you have to, like, the culture of having to have a favorite team too. Like, how much would you enjoy it if you didn't have a favorite college football team? Where you could never really be let down, or like a favorite baseball team, and you could just sit back and enjoy it. Because like up until 6:38 last night, the baseball had been incredible. Like, I'd been enjoying every game, right? Like, just all of them have been. The wild card round was fantastic. The early games yesterday were awesome. They were fun to watch. The Brewers Cubs, not really, but like the Yankees Jays game was fun. And then your favorite team comes on, and it's like, all right, it's our time, and you just want so badly for a moment, and you just want it to go your way, and so rarely does it happen. And I know there's going to be people that are telling me I'm crying from the yacht, and that's fine, but I'm crying from the yacht.
That's fine. And because, like, that's the thing
our
about
yacht's broken down.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about experiencing championships that I think people don't, we don't wake up and appreciate the journey enough as sports fans, and in our society in general, is those opportunities to kind of, like, it's turn the page, it's on to the next one, right? Like, if you told 2019 you, or any Georgia fan, even the craziest of Georgia fans, that they were going to win two national championships, but it was going to be bumpy, but you're still going to win the SEC championship in 2024. You're still going to have a really good team in 2025, but you're going to have some hiccups against Alabama. Like, sign me up, I'll sign my name in blood with the devil. They would all do it, right? Like, there's no questions. But then you get to those championships, you celebrate, and then you wake up that fine, February morning, and it's on to the next season, and it's on to the next opportunity, and then it's on to the next disappointment, because it is harder to win in this era of college athletics, which brings us to our conversation. Obviously, I always kind of, you don't want to bury the lead on the conversation, but there is the reality that the thumbnail, the title, everything that kind of goes into it, we know what we're talking about. So if you've clicked on it, you're intrigued. And if you're still sticking around at this point, obviously you're intrigued by what we're going to talk about. And it's how the modern college athletics landscape, and again, this isn't directly tied to baseball, but it is name, image, and likeness. It is paying players revenue shares, the realities of what college athletics is becoming, and heaping those loads of pressure on 19 to 22-year-olds, and how we've seen that impact seasons, impact what seems to be mental mistakes more than physical limitations with these guys, specifically quarterbacks in this sport. And I've had a lot of great conversations with some people about the differences of positions on the mental side of games, and being mentally, stressed and feeling that pressure as a quarterback is not like being mentally stressed and feeling that pressure as a linebacker, because as a linebacker, you can just go blow somebody's head off and you probably feel good about it. If you try to rip that football through somebody's forehead, you're probably not going to be accurate in completing a pass. But the premise of this theory, Dan, had come from last year. The top quarterbacks, at least just off the top of my head, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck, both really struggled at different times. Both were in the headlines for different reasons. You had Arch breathing down Quinn Ewers' neck. You have Carson Beck dating a Instagram model, and what his life had become. And then this year, you come into the season, there was what seemingly a wide open door for the best quarterback in the country. You had the Cade Klubniks of the world, Drew Allard. You had DJ Lagway, and probably the most famous of them all, Arch Manning. All four of them, in some way, shape, or fashion, have underperformed, and seemingly more mentally than physically. So, kind of, what's your take on the overall of how the pressure, and how fans and them feeling like they're a part of this and paying, and how they feel like these guys are professionals, have now led to mental limitations of really impressive and just immature, and not in a negative way, just underdeveloped mentally athletes, and how this is translated to limited results on the field?
Yeah, I think when you look at like the most popular college athletics, it could go across the board too. Like it's not just a football thing. Like you could certainly talk about this with baseball. You could certainly talk about this with college basketball. And by no means I'm not a basketball fan, so I don't know much about college basketball, but I follow the tournament every year. Like there's been a pretty prominent school that I've noticed hasn't been very good the last couple of years, and that's North Carolina. Like so you could even probably point to some of those, right? Like I'm sure they're still recruiting at the highest of levels and they're just not getting it done. I think it's kind of one of those things that's like a buildup to um, having this happen. And it started when social media became crazy. I think that certainly plays a part into it because I think it was probably a lot easier for athletes at the college level to bury their head before social media became a thing. You don't have
Yeah.
to see a lot of it. You don't have to hear a lot of it unless you're actively searching it out. People can't reach out to you as much unless you're in class with them or you're walking on campus or, on game day, they're in the stands, sure. But now it's like 24/7. If you are on your phone and you have your mentions on, you can see people talking about you 24/7. And I think that
Yeah.
was kind of the start of where the pressure comes in. And then you add in this thing where like the sports, especially when it comes to football, has gotten so popular. Like it's stopped being a college sport. And up until this point where we started paying guys, like even if you want to talk about some of the under the table payments with Reggie Bush, like it wasn't out there. We didn't
Mhm.
know what Reggie Bush was receiving. We didn't know what, whatever team you want to say was paying their players before you were allowed to. Most of them, I'm sure. You didn't know that. Like you and I, as a regular person, we couldn't pick it out. You and I know how much the quarterback at Georgia makes. We know how much the quarterback at Penn State makes. We know how much the quarterback at Clemson makes. I, Arch Manning, like right, we know the NIL valuation going on three.
Mhm.
It's right there. You can read all these every sport. You can read their NIL valuation, and I think once you did that, it stopped being amateur athletics. And people argued that it wasn't before, but like that part of it was in the sense that the pressure that they felt, like no one's people were going to give these kids a break because they were college students and they were still it still was under this disguise as being like they
Yeah.
were student athletes, right? And it was kind of under the cover. Now the public understands that they're professionals. And college was a tune up for pro sports, especially when you look at football, right? You went from college and like that experience that you got in college got you ready to then become a professional. And then you were in the NFL. And a lot of times as a rookie in the NFL, you're not the biggest star on your team, right? So like
Yes.
even
Yes.
then
Yes. Yes.
you're
Yes.
not dealing with all the pressure because we've seen like what position do we see a lot of rookies in the NFL flop? The guy who
Quarterback.
comes in as a quarterback and is expected to change the face of the franchise and they flop because at that point they're still 21 years old in the past and they hadn't ever dealt with that pressure of like you were a first round pick, we were paying you, here comes the expectations, and now you have that pressure. And so like if you were a wide receiver who was taken first overall, if you struggled your first couple of years, we would, you could get some time because
Marvin
the star
Harrison.
players, right? Like other positions. We don't have that run up now. Like college isn't preparation for that now. High school is. And you're never going to get the same attention. You're never going to get the same pressures. You're never going to get the same expectations in high school as you do once you get to these big campuses and these big schools now. And it's a lot to deal with from a mental side of things because the thing we always forget, and me and you say it all the time, we don't, they're 18 to 22 years
Yep.
old. Like, and if you just take a second to step back and go, how was I when I was 18 to 22 years old?
God. Yeah.
I would have never been able to handle the pressure that these kids face. And I don't want to, I am actually, I'm giving them that excuse because it's,
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like here I am, a guy who lives in North Carolina. The kids on the University of Georgia have no idea who I am, that I even exist in this world. I care how they perform on Saturdays. And if I was a crazy person, like a lot of people in that fan base are, I will rip them when they don't perform the way I perform. A random stranger, that is a lot to handle. And it takes an insane amount of mentality and an insane amount of like perseverance and being able to put the blinders on and just kind of trust your process to succeed in an environment like that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that you're right about it did start with social media, right? And I empathize like your school's favorite quarterback, whatever it is, when they have expectations and things like that. Like Drew Lar last week became a meme, right? And I'm not saying that just because he's the QB1 of the team I root for. And like when I was 22 years old, not 21 years old, whatever age he is exactly, actually, I'll admit it now that I'm 28 years old. If I was on everybody's social media feed, basically being the kicking boy and the joke, like I don't think I could go out and perform in whatever my industry was, right? I don't think I could go out and perform if people were making fun of me each and every day. If not only are you fighting against the opposition who's trying to make you look foolish each and every time you touch the field, you're now fighting your own fan base that now doesn't believe that you're good enough and they think it's an excuse to, you know, boo you and call you names and criticize you because you are in fact getting paid. And we forget that these are still teenagers to early adults that are expected to perform like veterans that don't have the experiences that even 30-year-old NFL quarterbacks have, and they still struggle in certain moments. And I think that's where I 100% do empathize that college athletes shouldn't have to not feel comfortable and give talks to the whole team about how they aren't on social media. They shouldn't have to, right? That is where I start to draw the line of are we heading to the road down the road of what we really think we're getting, right? And
We're halfway
accomplishing.
down that road.
100%. And then the other side of things is, and again, maybe fans booed in the past. Maybe fans like, we want to say that there is this, guise of purity that was college athletics. And we had this belief that these kids were sitting front row and taking notes and things like that that come with the college athlete experience. But now it has ramped up to a level that is insufferable to a certain extent, where you have players being booed and attacked and criticized and things like that, because again, there is a dollar figure next to your name, right? There's nothing that our society hates more than when you're in multiple commercials. Well, now it's not just the Travis Kelce's, the Saquon Barkley's, the Patrick Mahomes on your TV screen. It's the Arch Mannings. And then Arch Manning goes out as a 20-year-old kid, basically, teenager, young adult, underperforms against Florida, throws 2 interceptions, at least from the box score that I saw, can't even complete a pass against Ohio State. So now we hate you because our society's throwing you in front of our faces each and every commercial we click on and see, and your name, right, of Manning. So we're going to criticize you even more. And now when you underperform, now that cycle runs, and it's vicious, right? And it's vicious, and it's hard to sit there and as a supporter of college athletes and being in their corner. And again, we're more in the baseball space than the football space and the basketball space, where there's definitely higher pressure and more money involved. But to expect these kids to be able to perform on the field when we're harping all of this weight on their shoulders, it's really hard to watch. And it makes sense to see QB1s at high universities that come in with expectations and come in with these dollar figures and come in with these, hey, you got to get out of town to shoot this commercial with Travis Kelce and you got to get back for practice, and they don't know how to handle that. Are they more prepared for the future? Potentially. And are they maturing faster? Potentially. But I think we're putting harm on these individuals from the mental side of the sport, that these guys might never reach their ceiling as athletes because they never get to kick that barrier down.
Yeah, and I think that's probably part of the nice thing about baseball still is you have the minor leagues where you can kind of become anonymous and work on your game and grow as a person and as a player still, um, which is massive, right? Because I think that's kind of the point I'm making, especially for football. Is like we've cut that out completely. Like you don't get that time to kind of be, and again, you were never fully anonymous. Um, but like you said, like it wasn't 24/7. And like, yeah, they were probably booing you, but that's on Saturday and you can like that. I can get roll off your, it's 24/7. Not to mention add in the money now, like you're saying, and the ridiculous amount of money that these kids are getting paid. Some of these quarterbacks are getting paid millions of dollars. Some of these college baseball players are getting high six figures, money they've never had. The internal pressure that then comes with that, because now you know that I'm getting paid this money. There's an expectation that comes with it. Also, how do I handle it? Right? Like, am I like I'm distracting myself because I am flying to shoot a commercial to make some money and then I'm flying back and I'm not, I just missed time that I could work on myself or I could work on my game or I could be doing a million other things that just college kids do. And like, are you maturing faster? Yeah, but I think there's also like a point of diminishing return almost like where you're
Yeah.
maturing too fast. Like
Yeah.
you need to be able to be at some points like an 18 to 22-year old and experience those things and be able to mess up so that you can learn from it. Because if you're just like no matter what you do, who you are, sport, no sport, like whatever your career path is, whatever your life is as an individual, you're going to hit failures, you're going to hit speed bumps. A lot of us have those situations and make those mistakes when we're teenagers, when we're 18 to
Yes.
22 years old. I know, speaking from my experience, like a lot of this, well, I'm better off for them.
Mm-hmm.
They can't make some of these mistakes. They can't have those moments because it could ruin their lives. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and like, it's just kind of, it's unfortunate and it is sad because again, you like pull for the athletes. And when you take a step back from fandom and like being in it and like everyone's like, well, they're getting paid. And it's like, so they deserve the criticism, right? Like that's like one of the biggest things that we've heard
Yes.
when NIL came. It's like, well, now they're getting paid. So now I can demand more from them. It's like, yeah, but just because they're getting paid doesn't change the fact that that dude's 20 years old and like not a fully functioning adult yet. His
Mm-hmm.
brain isn't fully developed. He's
Yeah.
20. He's still
Mm-hmm.
maturing as a person. And it just causes like a really unfortunate thing. And again, like if you go back 25 years, if you go back 35 years, even more so in the 90s and early 2000s, like think about a student athlete's experience, even at a big school. Like you were still living with teammates, probably. You're still
Mm-hmm.
walking to class. You're still sitting in class with all the normal students. There was pieces of normalcy still in your day. Where college athletics has gotten now is like you probably get paid enough where you, if you want to, you can have your own place.
Mm-hmm.
Which
You drive a really nice car.
that's like a
Yeah.
responsibility. It's a
Mm-hmm.
real responsibility living on your own, having a nice apartment. You're
Yeah.
driving a really nice car, like you said, and you're probably taking all online classes or majority online classes. So
Yep.
there is no normalcy. You are just like sectioned off into your athletic facility, and you're not a part of the normal everyday college kid thing anymore. You're
Mm-hmm.
not. You're missing out on all those experiences, and it becomes harder. Like, I don't know. Am I less critical of the quarterback if he's sitting in my class and also driving a 2012 Honda Accord?
Yes, because you put a face
Maybe.
to the you put a personality to the face and the name. Yes, 100% you would.
Exactly. It just like creates a weird thing. And then like I don't want to get us too down. Maybe this is down the road here, but like my other concern with this is like as Bud Elliott always says, he's probably going pro in something other than sports.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's a real reality for people. Like
Especially
a
in
lot of
sports
these
like
student
baseball
athletes and
too.
even
Yep.
the ones who are high paid.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take baseball, for example. If you get paid $250,000 to be at a big time program and it just doesn't work out and you have to go get a real job and you come out of school and you're making 80K, which, hey, real
If
world,
that.
80K right out of college is unbelievable. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
but that's a pay cut for you now
Yeah.
of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Is that good for your maturing? Is that good for how you handle life? How are you going to be able to adjust and handle that when you just went from making 250,000 because you were a big time college athlete, and now you're grinding like the rest of us schmucks, making 80K and hoping that you have good
Mm-hmm.
benefits?
Yeah.
That's going to stunt some development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it is the repercussions of paying athletes beyond, and again, I don't, on both sides, like we're not going to, like if anybody's listening to this and they're saying, well, you guys think athletes shouldn't get paid, I think if anybody knows Dan and I, like we are
Pro
pro
athlete.
athlete, we are pro, advancing with the times. We are not going to say stuck in the past just because that's what we've done. That's our philosophies on baseball. Believe me, we wouldn't be in the positions we're in to talk about this sport if we still believed what we believed 10 years ago about developing baseball players, right? That's been part of our philosophies. The second thing is, and we're not going to sit here and I mean, I'll sit on a soapbox and defend athletes, but if you're going to sit there and say that athletes should be attacked and booed and things like that, I'm going to fight back. But I understand there are pressures that come with financial gains of being QB1 at a high level university, 100%. And those pressures are part of the pro athlete and pro paying athlete. A couple of things that I think you hit on that I'd thought about. You talked about the 1990s, early 2000s athlete. You want to know the other thing that wasn't publicly accessible then? Stats.
Yeah.
Stats on every page. I look back at, and this is more baseball, right? The first time I'd ever collected my stats was high school. And I remember starting a season like 0 for 60, and that's an exaggeration because I don't think we even got 60 at bats,
60 at bats. Yeah.
but 0 for whatever, and being able to track that and how much that impacted me mentally,
And that's an
right?
internal pressure.
Internal pressure that has nothing to do with outside. That was a high school athlete that didn't have anybody speaking of stats, right? And then college, you have the stats accessible on the page and ESPN apps and everything that comes with stats, and how that impacts added pressure on these guys. Let's say QB1 or ace pitcher for an SEC program where they can, now they become a punching bag because people that don't watch the game now can go back and look at their stats, right? And there used to be a time where if QB1 just won the football game, right? That was the only stat that mattered, right? But now you can become the kicking boy even if your team wins because you don't have 10 yards per attempt. And so now we're combining these two, chemicals that are external pressure when you don't perform up to your standard, internal pressure with wanting to be the best version of yourself as an athlete and understanding the long-term repercussions of not performing up to your abilities, combine them together, and you can't even celebrate anymore like you used to when your team wins a football game or wins a baseball game, because there's the pressures of now we can all keep track of our stats, and the fun that was the sport is now tied to the fun that comes with success within our sport. And I think that's a really big piece that nobody talks about that's changed. Is sure, the money's changed and it's exchanged in different ways. But now the biggest thing that I've ever seen that impacts more baseball players on the sports psychology side of things is the keeping track of their stats, knowing what their ERA is, knowing what their teammates and the guys they're competing with ERA is, knowing all these data points that come after every performance. And I think that is one of the things that comes with maturity and comes with time to be able to shrug off an 0 for 4. So now you're mixing the 19-year-old with internal expectations of performing and going, pitching 6 shutout innings, the external pressure of having to, feel like you're up to the money that you're being paid based off the revenue share, name, image, and likeness. And then the external pressure of social media and wanting to voice their opinions on your performance each and every time. And even if your team wins a baseball game, if you gave up 5 runs in 6 innings pitched, they're still frustrated about you being the Friday night starter at an SEC school. And it's a nasty, nasty position to be in for college athletes right now.
Yeah, like it's really well said. Like because that and for some reason, where I am the most boomer, and I shouldn't be because of what our endeavor here is like social media has just crippled society. Because like it's so like no matter how successful you are, and like you said, even if you're winning, you can go find the yeah buts everywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but. And like you said, and like I always laugh because the NFL really isn't about winning anymore. And it's more about like when you listen to media in the NFL, it's more about ranking people positionally. Like we would rather, instead of like, hey, what are the NFL standings? It's like, well, give me your top 10 quarterbacks right now. And they'll form it in 900 different ways. Who do you rank your quarterbacks in terms of who you trust most? Who's the best? It's like, what? Like, I thought we played this sport to win, like, right? Like, from the beginning of time, it was like, my team has more points than your team. Like, that's good. And like you said, like, it leaks into college athletics now, too, where it's just like, yeah, but he's being carried by his defense. Yeah, but they can't rush the passer. Yeah, but they may win, but who have they really played?
Yep.
And it's just like, oh, okay. Like you could find that in every corner of social media, like no matter what, and like all of the social media accounts that, like you said, like
corner,
not only
it's frontward facing. That's 100%. Everything. Because again, from media companies, you're talking about top. You want to talk about creating dialogue. Put together a rankings graphic. Somebody's commenting and disagreeing, right? They talk about Josh Pate talks about it all the time, right? People always say he's clickbait and he doesn't know what you're clicking on. And I don't think this is intentional. I think this is what the media has created. Anytime you put out a rankings, ratings, top 10 list, quarterback rankings, running back rankings, coach rankings, hot seat rankings, whatever it is, you are creating dialogue in the comment section. And that is the goal, to build your brand and expand on what you've already built. And the easiest way to do it is not, well, they won the football game, let's move on to next week and let's just keep stacking wins. And there's different ways to skin the cat. It's how can we take this analysis and turn it into, it's not which quarterback is the best, it's which one do you trust the most. And it's well beyond, the ability to just win a football game and celebrate the win. There has to be question marks within that.
Yeah, and like again, even like going back to it, like, and how many accounts do you see? Like you were talking about stats were accessible that you could go just look up the stats, but now it's like people will deliver the stats to you through social media. Like how many times do you see like like just the most random stats? It's like I didn't know I needed that stat, but here it is in front of me on my phone screen, and it's like someone's tweeting out this person's QBR against zone defense because that's what their whole shtick is on social media, because they're trying to make a living doing this just like you and I are, where it's like, well, against zone defense, this is their completion percentage. I don't know why everyone's not playing. It's like it's like from the top down. Like if you have a social media account and you know how to use the internet, you become an expert, and like you can sway people's opinions on things. And that's dangerous, and we're a part of it. We're just as bad as everyone else when you think about it a little bit. Now we try and not insert our opinion all that often on
Yeah.
things like that, like in
Mhm.
ranking things, because I don't think, at least personally speaking, like I will never feel like my opinion matters that much. Like who would
Yeah.
listen to me and base their opinion
Mhm.
off what I think? But it's just crazy because there's a lot of people out there who are self-made. I don't know what their background is. Your background could be nothing. Your background could be like you love a sport and you just start learning about it, and then you can create your own whole kind of world with people who come to you for your opinion. And you see it all the time. Like if you follow, like this is going to come off wrong, there's no good way to say it, but like just watch the ego trajectory of people who cover sports and get popular on social media. And like you
Good
can
job not
start to
calling anybody out. That was pretty impressive.
you
You
can
spun that
thank
well.
you. You
Yeah,
can
I'm with
see
you. Yeah.
like you can see like
It's
just
just
how it changes year over
yeah.
year. Like, and how it's like you used to, okay, that's an interesting take. I know exactly why you're doing it. You're pandering so
Mhm.
that you can get clicks because you need to make money. And like, that's just the way it goes. So people are
Mhm.
coming to you to trust and value your opinion, but you're only in it for their clicks. So you'll say whatever they want to hear. Guess where else this has happened and taken a stranglehold on us? The news. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it's just like everywhere you go, like you just can't, you're being catered to as a person
Yeah.
because of social media, because we need to generate clicks, because that's how it gets paid. We're going to say whatever people want to hear, or maybe we're going to say the complete opposite of what they want to hear to get them
So they
really
yell at
passionate
us.
about it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like if you're an athlete and you're an 18, I know this we kind of got off track here, so I'll tie it back in the best I can. Like if you're an 18 to 22-year-old, you have to live in a cave and just not listen to that, because as much as you are much more strong-willed and mentally tougher than the normal person, like that stuff can stick with you. Like I don't care who you are, and maybe it doesn't even happen on purpose, and maybe you don't even think in the moment that that comment bothered you or you read that thing and it upset you, but like maybe 4 weeks down the line, you realize, oh, that really got to me. And now you've just lost a month because you were worried about something some Joe Blow in a basement in Georgia said about you.
Yeah. I'm letting that simmer a little bit because that's a really good point. Because um one, ironically, I know exactly who you're talking about the ego trajectory, and good job not calling him out personally. Not that he follows the channel and everything. I know you're a huge fan of his and has followed his content for an extended period of time, but you're right. And I think to defend those people, I would be lying as somebody who meets with our social media team and our production team on a weekly basis. It's like, okay, let's go to the drawing board. What worked? Okay, taglines, these topics, tie this in. Okay, let's do more of that. Right. And how can we market that? And how can we do more of that? And how can we do more of that? And it's based off of what people respond to, not exactly what we're most passionate about. We've put out a lot of really good content that I'm really passionate about and I really, really love. And it doesn't get the response that I think from our spots it should, our seats at the table that it should. And I think that that's something when you're trying to build and monetize, you get paid off of clicks, impressions, and things like that. And you start to unintentionally, subconsciously gravitate towards what people want to hear. And you start to dig in on those sides of things. So that's a really good point on that part. And it's something that from the social media management side of things, I understand, because you're right. That is something that we do on a weekly basis, just try to structure what we're doing content wise. Again, I mean, just to tie into what we do, I'll be blunt about it. The facility tours aren't the thing that we're most passionate about. We do the facility tours because programs like it and 16 to 20-year-old kids like it. That's just being honest, right? If we could just do our player development stuff each and every time we go to a school, I think we're more passionate about that, but we have to appease the masses. We don't have to appease a certain demographic that's more like Dan and I, right? We'd be stupid to cut off our nose to spite our face, right? But to tie into that last point you made, because that really sat with me when we talk about this from a mental standpoint, right? For those that don't know, I do have a postgraduate education in sports psychology. That's what kind of gets me into these conversations. And rabbit holes, and that's such a good point, because I reflect back on my life, right? And this is anything in general, and those moments of that trigger you down these ruts, these bad ways, and these moments. And you're right that, like, it happens, and we can get a, really mature people can get an hour away from it. Really mature people can get 15 minutes away from it. Most people probably get a week away from those moments. And reality is when I was 18 to 22, and probably for most of these college athletes, it is a month, it is weeks, it is these things. And you don't even really, you subconsciously respond, and that lingers in your head and sets you down this trajectory of trying to allow that to dictate the decisions you make and the way you play or the way you perform or the way you live your life. And there are moments of, those triggers that send you down these rabbit holes, and to expect 18 to 20-year-olds to be mature enough to handle that, right? We're not even talking about respond accordingly and go out and take that as fuel and turn it into motivation and then use it as, a positive on the field. Like, just by setting them up for failure, like, that's scary, man, when your name is as publicly recognizable as some of these guys are. Because you're right, like, these moments that probably come up for some of these athletes, and like, that's life changing at times. Some athletes will never be the same after that.
There are things from years ago that'll sometimes pop into my head.
100%. Yeah.
I'm like, why am I letting that affect me?
And it does, right?
And
Because
it's
you're
like usually,
human.
and it's yeah, right. And it's like it's usually for me. Everyone's different. For me, it's like typically like if I'm not able to fall asleep right away, that's when I'll start like, and I'll think about stuff from like years ago, and I'm like, what? Why is this keeping me up right now? This is literally the most irrelevant thing, but like you can't control it all the time, and that's where mental health is so hard. So then and then again, now rewind time. I'm 30 years old, so now go back to when I was 20. That used to happen all the time. And again, I was still in those situations, making dumb decisions or having interactions or altercations that affected me negatively, even though if it happened now, I would not even think about it. But like, it's just, and like now, times that by 50. And to me, like the use it as fuel on the field thing is the biggest farce in sports.
Yeah.
There are moments where people think that that's like, I just don't buy it. I really don't. And the older I get, the more I don't, because I truly think that like the best competitors they don't rely on an external motivation or people talking bad about them to perform. No, you would, if you constantly relied on that, you wouldn't be able to, be incapable of it. Now there are moments where things happen and it can blow up into a bigger story, and I don't know, but like Orlando Arcia walking around the clubhouse yelling "Attaboy Harper" in the 2023 NLDS is not the reason Bryce Harper homered twice the next game. I promise you that. Now, it because it blew up into a thing, it turned into a cool moment because he stared Arcia down both times, and like that became a part of his kind of mystique and everything. But I promise you, if Orlando Arcia had said nothing, Bryce Elder rolling a 2-0 breaking ball belt high to Bryce Harper would have gotten deposited into the upper deck anyway. Like, probably. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, yeah, sure. Okay. Like Diego Pavia practicing kneeling down before the game did not affect the way the Alabama team played yesterday or
Mm-hmm.
their game plan in the game. I would hope, right? And I'm making an assumption
Game
here.
plan,
And
yes. Motivation, I would say potentially.
I don't think like
It,
I really don't think it, because I think especially in a sport like football, if you focus on that and you get bent out of shape like that, then you run past your assignment because
yeah.
you're too fired up. Like, no,
Yeah.
you win that game because of the work you put in practice to prepare for their offense. You were gonna try, like, yeah, I just don't buy
So,
into that
yeah.
anyway. So like for me, it's like the hate and everything, like causing motivation. People rely on it. People say it. It's been like it's one of the oldest adages in sports. It's something I don't personally believe in.
Yeah. So actually, that's a good point from a psychological, performance aspect. I always talk about this is what really good athletes do, and again, this comes with maturity, and you can't expect 18 to 22-year-olds to do this. The Bryce Harper example is, so many people think that's like increasing motivation, I guess is the way to say it, but pressure to perform in the scenario. If Arcia says attaboy Harper, Harper comes in, he takes 15 extra swings, he's fired up, he's got Arcia pinned on his locker, and he's just throwing darts into his eyes. But what really mature and high level athletes do is they increase their focus, they increase their preparation, they increase their ability to put themselves in a position to succeed, right? That's what I've had to work with a lot of young athletes on is, hey, you're a very motivated individual, and sure, maybe you want some bulletin board material or you want to be amped up and you want to be able to perform. But what high level athletes do is they turn that fuel into increased focus, increased preparation, so that when the day comes, right, like you're that defensive end and you're playing Diego Pavi and you're fired up because you want to rip his head off. So you rush too high, he leaks out 25 yards, first down, your coach is pissed at you. What you actually need to do is you need to increase your focus. You need to increase your preparation. So you can't break contain so that he can break off a 20-yard run, right? That's the difference. And that's what high level athletes do is they take those moments and turn them into opportunities to increase their focus and preparation in those moments so that they can perform, right? But that's what 18 to 22-year-olds don't have the foundation of. Again, a great example of this is haters all week. Drew Alar comes out with eye black with, a Bible verse, written across the eyes with it. Guess what he didn't have on in the second half? The eye black. It was gone. And so we want to act like these guys are high performing adults. Like they are no different than me when I was 19 years old, where when I punched out, I would use one less batting glove. Like I'd take off my top batting glove. And I think that was going to solve my issues because, we're so, impacted by this or that and motivation and things like that. And so I think that's a really good point because these younger athletes don't know how to turn that negative energy into increased focus and preparation. They turn it into mouth breathing energy. I want to go rip somebody's head off type energy. And they end up playing, like you said, worse. They end up playing out of the system. They end up forcing throws that aren't there. They end up seeing ghost in defensive coverages, and even the layups are harder for them. And I think that's the biggest thing I'd tie all of this into. Your favorite athlete, QB1 at your favorite school, your ace starter at your SEC program, whatever you support, even professional sports. What I've noticed with athletes more and more nowadays is they underperform because they care so much. So many people want to think that DJ Lagway is underperforming. And okay, we'll use this example.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of reasons there.
So many people want to think Carson Beck's underperforming because he's got an Instagram model girlfriend and he's driving a Lamborghini. And there's probably a reality to that, right? But more than likely, he probably feels the pressure of being a multi-million-dollar athlete. He feels the pressure to perform. And when he goes on the road, that increased pressure to put the team on his back, he starts forcing balls into coverage that isn't there. And he throws 10 interceptions on the road last year that ends up impacting Georgia's season. Correct?
And not only that, and yeah. So first off, on that point, it's like you said, like he came in at 18 years old. He sat behind a quarterback who won 2 national championships in a row. And now it's his time.
Talk about
and
pressure.
What's the expectation? The expectation is you're going to win a national championship. You go undefeated in the regular season your first year. You have a disappointing end to the season. You may or may, like, you win one more game that year, you're in the playoff and you have a chance to win your own. It doesn't happen. So now you probably feel like as a 22-year-old that you have to increase your level because you didn't accomplish you didn't meet expectations on that year, which are crazy expectations. Winning a national championship, 1 out of 136 does it every year. So then you get this paycheck, and then you get the car, and now it's more public, and now you're famous, and now the expectation is, well, he's coming back. He's a Heisman candidate. The expectation is win the national championship. You're the preseason number 1 ranked team in the year. So yeah, when things aren't easy right off the bat, you start forcing things because you think it's all on your shoulders, 100%. And like shocking that he gets clowned, forgotten about, and he comes out, he's playing on a really good team this year, and he looks like a really good quarterback, just like he was 2 years ago. Real quick, I would just like to say, since we've talked so much football, I thought when you were talking about that example of the Alabama defensive end, I thought for the first time on this baseball show, we were going to hear the words rush lane integrity. And that would have been an awesome we really would have jumped sports. I was waiting for it. I thought you were going to start talking about rush lane integrity. I was like, man, this is now just a football show.
Yeah, 100%. And the point of Carson Beck, again, is tie that into the comparison because these guys, and I honestly think, and maybe it's because it's the network that I live in, these college quarterbacks have more pressure than Josh Allen
Think
and
of,
Patrick
but even,
Mahomes.
yeah, well, for sure. And think of even like to tie it back to baseball. I mean, it all matters from a college athletes and whole, but like, how many times has Wahiva Aloy fielded that ground ball and turned that double play in his
Yeah, now
life?
he's again Charles Davenant too. Like the weight of the Arkansas program is now like he is now a kicking boy, right? For memes of the Arkansas baseball blunders that have led to, mistakes in the postseason. 100%. And like
Like,
again, trying to do too much on well, Aloy was trying to do too much. Let's say that. I don't. I think Davlin hit a sprinkler head or something.
listen, that stadium, kind of where the ball was, lights, it was top spun. We have some firsthand accounts from people who were there
Yeah, hit hard. All the things
on
that
the
come with
field
that. But
level. We've talked to people who were field level, and
yeah,
it was not as easy to
um,
play as it looked on ESPN.
but yeah, I mean, it's hard to be a supporter of college athletes in this space right now, right? Like I think it is definitely a problem when you and I have to sit there and say that our lives are more, again, and we're fans, and I would consider ourselves the top 20 percentile of fans in terms of how much we watch and how much we pay attention to press conferences and things like that, right? But when you have to log off of social media because of the toxicity that surrounds the program that you support and it's better for you, that's a problem, right? And we're not in those locker rooms. We're not in those moments. And if you're sitting there as a fan and you want to criticize and you want to critique and you want to do those things, that is all fair and in your right, but just take a step back for a moment and realize that these are 18 to 23-year-old college athletes who have no idea how to handle this. They're the first people ever going through it, right? Like these are the first
Yes,
athletes that have ever gone through being paid in the public specter that is, but also the first athletes where revenue share, like they are now employees of the university, right? And there's
for
money
all
that
intents
is
and purposes,
yeah, 100%. Like now it is
because of
legitimately
course we
above
can't.
board, right? So we have to understand what these athletes are going through and how mature they are. And they have to mature so much
Or
quicker than
immature they
normal.
are.
How immature they are. Yeah, 100%. And how underdeveloped they are mentally in terms of their opportunities to perform. And it's frustrating and it's hard. And I think we have to take a big step back. And again, this is not a call to change. Nothing's going to change, quite frankly, after this conversation. It's more of just like if you're a follower of this and you want to have a good conversation about the changes of college athletics and how it puts pressure on athletes, that's what we're here to do. But the reality is it's only going to get worse and it's only going to become a larger issue. But take a step back, realize that these are 18 to 23-year-old kids, and realize the irreparable harm that some of these athletes are being put under and how it impacts their future. Like you said, again, we're now going to be putting these kids in to be making multi-millions, and then they become an undrafted free agent. They kick around practice squads for 2 years. They had to turn in their, nice car because now they're making regular human money. And then they're selling insurance by the age of 26. It's like, bruh, you better hope mommy and daddy have a trust fund because that money ran out quick.
Yeah, and I just wonder how, like, college is about developing people.
Yeah.
College athletics even more so, which is why I became so passionate about it. Wanting to be a coach, wanting to be, because I remember going through the process and growing up, and like I just wonder how badly are we stunting the development of kids when we do this. And again, if there's gonna be an industry that makes this much money off of them, I 100% believe they should benefit from that and get money in their pockets without question. Like
Mm-hmm.
without question, they do deserve, like, and everyone wants to argue that, where it's like, well, the math major doesn't get that. Yeah, well, unfortunately in our society 110,000 people don't show up to watch the math major.
Do long division.
Yeah, do long division. They show up to watch Ty Simpson play quarterback. So they should get money. But my worry is like, do we stunt their development? And of course, the ones who are stars and the ones that everyone thinks about and remembers and focuses on, the ones who, Jaden Daniels, who went to transfer to LSU, made a bunch of money, won a Heisman Trophy, is now looks like he's going to be a star in the league. Is this the point is mute? But the kids you're talking about, where they made, even if it's just low six figures, and then they're making 80K, like, yeah, do we stunt their development? I just
Mhm.
hope that they're, hopefully we have resources and people there that are helping these kids manage their money and understand that
Yeah.
it might not be for forever.
Good programs do. I firmly believe that. I think good programs do have those guys in financial literacy classes and things like that. And just to, you made the point about the math major, I'll just kind of hit this as well. That kid can make money. At least go back 10 years. The football player couldn't
Sure, they can go
make money. That
wait
math
tables
major
and
could go, well, no, not even that. If that math major is really special, like some of these athletes have been in the past, they can go get an internship at
yes,
Tesla
yeah,
and make
yeah,
a like if they are the best of the best
yeah.
in the world, the Zion Williamsons when they were at Duke, you are a special athlete. You can now go get a shoe deal with Nike before you're a professional athlete. These math majors, they actually can in fact go get the best internship, and if those internships pay $70 an hour because they're trying to get the best of the best to apply to that internship, like they can do that, right?
Yeah,
Like they
great point.
they
Great point.
can, right? And so that's where again, this is probably another conversation. Maybe we lead right into part two next week, and the the idea of name, image, and likeness. Again, when I tied it back to the first time it was ever brought to my attention was, crap, Zion Williamson should be getting a shoe deal with Nike at 19 years old. He's a polarizing figure. He's the best college basketball player. He's playing at Duke. He's number one on the top 10 plays each and every, after every game because he's putting dunks that are viral videos. What it has become now is not the best of the best can go get their shoe deal 3 years earlier and make life changing money. It becomes the backup tackles now making six figures because we need
Because
to
we
build
need
depth.
depth. Yeah.
Right. And it's become a salary cap roster build. We have this amount of money. Let's spread this out. This has not been go make money off of your name, image, and likeness, which is what it had been tied to. It's now go make money off of your skill sets as even a depth piece, right? And things like that. And it has really impacted, and again, there's probably one program that came out on the forefront and was doing it all for all the wrong reasons, which then forces all the good programs to have to do it for the wrong reasons, even though they wanted to do it for the right reasons, because they have to compete, because there's expectations and there's fans that care. And then it becomes this whole wicked, spin cycle of negativity and problems that have been created in this space. And I think it's just something that is very important to keep in mind, is that we're losing the purity of college athletics, and we probably have for a long time. But you mentioned it. College athletics is about developing people first and foremost into functioning members of society, building relationships, building opportunities through those experiences. We've now completely lost that. Like we're stunting the growth postgraduate because they're not never going to have life changing money again in their life, and we're also putting them in a position where these anxieties, these pressures, and things like that, again, like these, Christian Hackenberg is a great example. Christian Hackenberg is a kicking boy still. It's like, dude graduated 10 years ago and he played in the NFL for 2 freaking
Goodness
years. And
gracious.
the
I
guy
haven't even
can't do
thought of that
anything with
kid.
that. 100%. And it's like, that's what the social media and modern electronic based era that we're in is. We're still making fun of people that are long gone, retired, and they're still popping up in conversations and having the pressure heaped on them. So if we don't think that's functioning, impacting their ability to function as a member of society, like I personally don't know what will. But Dan, any closing thoughts before we get out of here? I know there's probably a lot more conversations we can have surrounding this, but I think again it's probably a good point to tie up the knot on this podcast, and maybe move on to a more fun thing to speak of next time we meet.
Yeah, no, just remember that these are children.
100%. And again, it's just like maybe we are empathetic people, but like, shoot, I
We
couldn't.
are.
I felt
We're
like I
way
had
too
pressure.
empathetic.
Yeah, I had pressure on me when I played at a no-name Division 3 school, and I felt like I had pressure on me. Like I put myself in these shoes, and like every Saturday and watch these guys come out, and specifically QB1s. And like, if I was in Arch Manning's shoes, I wouldn't be able to complete a forward pass. No matter how much training, no matter how much knowledge I had about the defensive system we were going against and things like that, the pressure and the anxiety. And again, maybe that's why I'm not at a level. I mean, size, strength, and physicality is a part of it. But like, I would have never had the mental fortitude to push through what these guys are pushing through. So I'll be the outlier here. I applaud these athletes for going out and still giving it their best and trying to perform every Saturday, because right now they are villainized in this space, and nothing they can do is not public news and ridiculed from a public standpoint.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You were
It
putting
is.
so much pressure on yourself because you were trying to impress the star women's tennis player.
The star women's tennis player. I mean, it's hard.
Got her too. It
It
worked.
is hard when your college significant other, every time you walk out of the athletic training room, your significant other is on the wall right in
Oh, I'm
front
the
of you.
second. I was the second most successful athlete in my relationship too, by far.
100%. So I walk out of the athletic training room. There's my now wife on the wall playing tennis. And then I go to hang out with her, and she doesn't even care, because tennis is so secondary in the life at that point, because she's also a rock star and deciding to become a doctor. So you want to talk about pressure.
Yeah, you had
Not
a lot.
only
You had
am
a
I
lot. You had a full plate.
academically at a disadvantage,
You got
when
it
I
done
don't
though.
perform athletically, I'm also secondary,
You
because
got it.
I'm not on the wall at Marywood still to this day. So
You got it done, bro. You got it done. That's what.
I got it to. So that will do for this episode. It was a really fun one. I think it's a conversation that we can continue to have, and definitely something that we'll continue to talk to college coaches about. And maybe it's something we can get behind the scenes conversations about, and that's going to impact on how they're handling it and how they're helping guys through this. But in this athletic standpoint, sports psychology, mental health awareness, and things like that are probably at the forefront of priorities from our minds. So just try to take a step back and remember that when you were 18 to 23, you wouldn't want somebody on social media calling you a big idiot and calling you terrible and making, TikTok edits of you being Saddam Hussein and stuff like that. Basically saying that you're terrorist, because I have seen those things, and I do chuckle. I'm not going to lie. And they do get sent to me, but it's not fair for a 21-year-old to 22-year-old to have to deal with those experiences. So just keep that in mind every time you watch these athletes perform, is that they are 18 to 23-year-olds, and that's a lot of pressure on their plate. So that'll do for this episode of the Baseball Development Hub podcast, Establish the Run podcast, whatever you want to call it at this point, because we're dabbling in every sport except for baseball. Make sure you smash the subscribe button if you're still listening, and follow on all social media channels. We have a ton of great content coming out on a weekly basis, and you, quite frankly, you don't want to miss any of it. So that'll do for this episode of the Baseball Development Hub.